Good morning, Paul. Thank you so much for taking the time to meet with us this morning.
My pleasure. Thank you for asking me to.
Absolutely. We are so excited to be able to dive into some of the great advice that you have for new and aspiring authors. But first, can you tell us a little bit about when you started writing? Do you remember the first thing that you ever wrote or when you got excited about putting pen to paper?
Well, yeah, actually, I was very young though. I think I started writing. My mom still has some things that she sent to me from when I was 5, 6 years old.
Wow.
When I would make Christmas cards, or I would make things and write poems and do things like that. So from a very early age, I was always very interested in writing in some form. And when I was in elementary school, I kept thinking that I wanted to be I think I wanted to be an illustrator. I like to draw, and I wanted to do comic books because that then had story connected to artistic writing. I mean, storytelling and then art and all of that together. But so from very early age, I did that. I think, if I remember correctly, I wrote my first play when I was in fifth grade.
Oh,
And I
wow.
got some friends together, and we performed it during recess for my fifth grade class. And I was thinking about that it was very kind of my teacher to indulge me in that. And I think part of that was the sort of encouragement I got from the teachers and family members and various folks who certainly didn't try to stop me from writing. I don't know that they knew that it was going to go anywhere, but I was certainly encouraged in doing it. So yeah, from a very early age, I was doing a lot of writing.
That's so encouraging. My daughter does the same thing. She'll just sit at the computer and type just for like an hour or two. She'll
Hmm.
just pull words just pour out onto the page and she loves to draw as well. She actually, I'm so proud of her. I have to give her a little plug here. She just had her first illustrations published on an ebook on Kindle
Oh,
for
nice.
an author. Yeah, so that was
Okay,
very
good.
exciting. And she's 11, so
Okay, not a bad start at 11 to be a published author.
yeah,
Sure.
yeah. So that's I think that's great that your teachers encouraged that and never said, "Oh, you can't do this,"
Hmm.
or anything like that. So,
Right.
well, I mentioned earlier, my kids, like so many others, have grown up listening to Adventures in Odyssey.
Mm-hmm.
And you're kind of a celebrity in our house because we hear your name at the end of
Mm-hmm.
every episode every night. So tell us, how did you get hooked up with Focus on the Family, and specifically, how did you get involved writing Adventures in Odyssey?
Well, uh, very quickly, what happened is I began to take the my interest in writing and turned it into sketch writing, short dramas and one-act plays and plays for my church. I belong to a very arts-minded church back in Maryland, and with all of that encouragement, I had an outlet for the writing, which was very nice. But I actually saw myself more as a playwriter than anything else. And then through that, I connected with a gentleman named Chuck Bolte, who fans will recognize the name as executive producer of Odyssey for a very long time. But before he did that, in fact, before we got involved in Odyssey, we worked together on it was a national drama troupe, Christian group called Jeremiah People. And so I was writing for him and doing things in that context. And then he was pulled in as a consultant to focus on the family on this new drama that they were doing. And because he got pulled into it, they needed writers. They asked me to step into it. And I began to write scripts for them as a freelancer. And then ultimately that led to what became Adventures in Odyssey. And I was pulled in as a full time writer. And that was back in 1988. I'm hesitant to say because it was such a very long time ago. Uh, uh, but yeah, so that was it. I mean, it was through what I had done as a writer before Odyssey, and then that set it up for me then to move into the realm of actually doing it as a full time job, which is wonderful, really.
It is, it is. So while we're on the subject of Adventures in Odyssey,
Hmm.
I have to encourage our viewers that are maybe planning a vacation to Colorado to make sure that they take time to stop by Focus on the Family
Hmm.
headquarters because we have visited and it truly is like walking into Odyssey. It is the
Hmm.
coolest place ever. So, can you tell our visitors just a little bit about what kinds of things there are to see and do there?
Well, yeah, Focus on the Family realized really early on that we needed what they call a welcome center. And that if it was going to be a welcome center, it was not only going to be about how the ministry started and all the stuff that goes on here, but to make it fun. And a wit's end was sort of the obvious way to go. So they took one of the entire levels and converted part of it into the soda shop, sort of ice cream shop. They serve pizza there and hot dogs and all kinds of things. And then they also, I believe, the B-52 from Last Chance Detectives is there. They have a lot of hands-on displays, and they also have this really cool thing that we created. It's kids radio. So kids can go in and actually record themselves as part of an Adventures in Odyssey episode and then burn that on a disc and take it home. So there's just a lot to do around here. It's a lot of fun.
There it is. I was just floored when we went. I couldn't believe how much work had gone into and thought had gone into really recreating Wits End there.
Mm-hmm.